are on their way. I don't know where they have arrived. And there's somebody to represent AfroInvest. So that is the good message from AfroInvest. They have taken not just one page, but 2 pages. Let's please applaud them. Now, as we go on, we see that towards the end, before the back page, you will see on page 31. On page 31, we have another goodwill message from the University of Nigerian Teaching Hospital, UNTH. They sent us goodwill message, and we should thank them for that. Please, let's applaud them. And our own next page, we just turn it, is our own Medical and Dental Council. As the president has mentioned, one of us is the chief executive officer there, and he has been very active. He's a very active member of NAMED. Dr. Fatima Kyari is a member of council. He's also a member of the local organizing committee. He has been the first one running around since morning. So, no doubt, Medical and Dental Council has sent us goodwill message. And good to mention it again, that the chairman of that council is also a fellow of the academy, Professor Folusho Ebun Afolabileshi. And inside back cover, you will see another goodwill message. And if you look at the bottom of it, they have stated that area in blue. They say best wishes from all of us at Marigold Hospital on the 5th year of the academy, serving as the apex medical body, providing expertise and nurturing the next generation of medical academics. Let's give Marigold Hospital a round of applause. Marigold Hospital is in Lagos, and the chairman is one of us too, who is a fellow of the academy, Dr. Ajibola Jeje. Where we will not go without recognizing ourselves. The package itself is JNAM. That's the Journal of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Thank you very much. Each of those people that have acknowledged with what they have put in this brochure is not free of charge. They have paid something. Thank you very much. Yes, I cannot go away like that. We have to do the induction. That's why we are here. We are here for 2 major purposes. First, the induction of new fellows who are great men and women in their own rights, college presidents, chief medical directors, vice chancellors, different medical giants who have accepted to join the academy. So we take it in alphabetical order. I want to invite the president, because the hand of the president, even though he's a tall man, may not be able to reach the floor. I want to invite Professor Sam Oregulam to come down from his highest table to another high place there. I don't know whether we want the president seat. Maybe we give him a chair because I think his last birthday was which is a surgeon. Not just a surgeon, a neurosurgeon. I know a neurosurgeon. The operation can last 24 hours. Standing. Abiodun, Professor Abiodun Olatunji Alao. He's someone who qualifies as a psychiatrist and I'm a renowned expert in community Olatunji Alao. Let's welcome him. Next is a consultant oral and maxillofacial surgeon of no mean repute. He is a dean of the Faculty of Dentistry, and that is our Charles Ezechukwu Anyanechi. The next is Professor Atalabi Omolola Mujisola Atalabi. This is a distinct in pediatric imaging. It's a radiologist of no mean repute. Well, don't just leave him like that. He's also a medical activist in NMA. The next is a very big man, not because of his size. His size is big, but he's also a big man because he is the college president of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria, a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, and is a big man by all standards. We welcome Professor Peter Ndidi Ebegbe. Professor Ebegbe.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I welcome you as a fellow.
Next is Professor Michael Olalekan Gbotolorun, that is Mark Botesh. Gbotolorun. This is a consultant oral material surgeon, and he has been working at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital for decades, a professor of no mean repute. Professor Gbotolorun.
Thank you. On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I welcome you as a fellow.
Next, we have Professor Igbegbe. Professor Patrick Sunday Igbigbi is a leader. He has just retired from the Delta State University and is a visiting professor at the FAMO. Professor of Anatomy, Professor Patrick Igbigbi.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I welcome you as a fellow of the Academy.
Professor Ijaya. Yeah, we have many gynecologists here. He is consultant obstetrician gynecologist with an interest in Ijaya.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I welcome you as a fellow. Congratulations.
Next is another big man. Not only big because of his size, but big because in his pocket is all the money of the National Postgraduate Medical College. He's the current treasurer of the National Postgraduate Medical College, a consultant orthopedic surgeon and traumatologist, Professor Innocent Chiedu Ikem.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I welcome you as a fellow. Congratulations.
Next is another Ikem, husband and wife. We have Professor Rosemary Temidayo Ikem, a consultant physician with subspecialty in endocrinology at the Obafemi Awolowo University Teaching Hospital. Professor Ikem lady, because we have Ikem Mr. and Ikem Mrs.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I admit you as a fellow of the Academy. Congratulations.
Next is Professor Simini Alai. I hope I pronounce it well. It's a very long name. Professor Iyopu Minakiri Simini Alai, Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Port Harcourt, is joining us as a new fellow.
On behalf of the Academy, I admit you as a fellow with all the rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Next, we have Professor Lagunju. This is another distinguished professor of pediatrics with specialty in neurology. He's a pediatric neurologist. Professor Ikeoluwa Lagunju.
On behalf of the Academy, I admit you as a fellow of the Academy with all the rights and privileges, and also the right FNA med after your name. Thank you.
Next, we have a urologist, deputy chairman of Lagos University Hospital, an associate professor of surgery.
On behalf of the Academy, I admit you as a fellow with all the rights and privileges, and also to enjoy the title of FNA Med. Thank you.
Next, we have another professor of pediatrics, this time pediatric gastroenterology, Professor Ayodele Ojuawo, all the way from the University of Ilorin.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I admit you as a fellow with all the rights and privileges and the use of FNA Med.
Next is another professor of anatomy. We are having professors of anatomy joining this academy. I think we should give anatomy a round of applause. Professor Olugbenga Abayomi Okanlawon is a professor of anatomy at the Lagos University of Lagos, Eko for sure.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I admit you as a fellow with all the rights and privileges and the use of FNA Med. Congratulations.
Next is another gynecologist. We have been, I think this will be the third or fourth gynecology. He's a big man too, not only by his size. So, Professor Adeshina Oladokun, a professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the University of Ibadan, and consultant obstetrician and gynecologist.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I admit you as a fellow with all the rights and privileges and the use of FNA Med after your name.
The next person I will call is Professor Umuemu. He is a professor of public health and community medicine and consultant public health physician. Professor Vivian Osaidion Umuemu. Professor Umuemu, you're welcome.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I admit you as a fellow with all the rights and privileges and the use of FNA Med after your name. Congratulations.
Finally, here present, I will call a professor of pediatrics again and consultant pediatric gastroenterology, Professor Idowu Shembanjo. Professor Shembanjo is from the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital and Lagos State University.
On behalf of the Academy of Medicine, I admit you as a fellow and to enjoy the rights and privileges of the Academy, as well as add FNA Med after your name. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Those are the one for induction. You will notice that there are more people, some more people listed, but they were not called because for NAMED To be inducted, you must be present physically. You can join online to watch what we are doing, but at the next round of applause. I want all those who have been inducted to stand up. I hope you have your bond of obligation. And you will display your bond of obligation for everybody to see, for all of us to see, and including those online. This is to show that you have signed your bond of obligation. You will now read it to us, starting with you mention your name and you go on.
Please, can you do me a favor and appreciate Professor Oluwole Atoyebi? You know, Prof mentioned that he's the aging process, but I observed that he knew every single page of the agenda. How did he do it? Only him knows. Amazing. Well done, Prof. Well done. Well done. Can we celebrate the newly inducted members and fellows? Please give them a round of applause. Please.
Of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine, I congratulate the president, Professor Sam Ohiagbulam, NNOM FNAMED, Council of Nigerian Academy of Medicine, the Secretary of NAMED, Professor Oluwole Atoyebi, and expert assessment panels of various disciplines for the excellent work in the stringent due process followed in selecting the new fellows. This is another great development in advancing the course of medical and dental professions in Nigeria. I congratulate all the new fellows in the various specialties on this monumental achievement. Today, we have a total of 180 fellows, including additional new fellows from basic medical sciences,
basic clinical sciences, and dental sciences. We thank all the concerned ministries and agencies of the federal government of Nigeria for the support granted to us in making our dream a reality. I appreciate the huge honor bestowed upon me as the pioneer chairman of the Board of Trustees. Our major goal as a non-partisan and expert body is to make the Nigerian Academy of Medicine relevant to the health needs of our society through research, consultations, and expert advice to various government and private organizations. Our academy will promote good health locally and globally, respect ethics, cultures, traditions, gender sensitive. My emphasis, gender sensitive, as well as remain focused with demonstrable evidence for excellence in research, medical and laboratory practices. The Journal of Nigerian Academy of Medicine, JNAB, is a major organ of the academy. It was established by the BOT to enhance the visibility and committed that fund to support production of our journals. So thank you very much for that effort. Today's induction ceremony, including an annual lecture on vaccine preventable diseases in Nigeria, the quest for self-sufficiency, to be delivered by a very outstanding, eminent foundation fellow, Emeritus Professor Idris Mohammed, OON, NNON, FAS, FNAMED, with a title Dan Issa Gombe. He's a hope man that I admire and respect a lot. He's an outstanding scientist, very humble. So we look forward to your lecture, Dan Issa Gombe. So certainly, this group are eminent, and we are supposed to show leadership in all aspects of medical practice and dental practice. And therefore, we are to chart a common and respectable course for our academy so that it will continue to serve all. And for all. The Medical and Dental Council has been appreciated for their support giving us office. And Dr. Fatima Kiari, the present registrar, has been very active right from the foundation days. We appreciate you. Please stand up for recognition. Very simple, very humble, and very dynamic. You can call her at any time, she will deliver. All the new fellows for this greater achievement. God bless you all. God bless the Nigeria Academy of Medicine. God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Now, I think we can appreciate the chairman, Board of Trustees, Professor Dugoni. Please give him a big hand. knowledgeable about this going to deliver this lecture. But to deliver the citation for our guest lecturer, I have the singular privilege of inviting her up to the microphone at this moment. You heard the Board of Trustees chair describe her and ask her to stand up for recognition. And I have the opportunity today to also shower a few accolades upon her for her great work and her resilience. She's also the registrar of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. Please let's welcome Dr. Fatima Kyari up here, please.
Good morning, distinguished members of the Board of Trustees, distinguished members of the Council of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine, distinguished professors and fellows of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine, our special guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly an honor for me to read the citation of my father, Professor Idris Mohammed. I think I'm getting a bit better and better at this reading of citation. Well, here in our midst, in this whimsical world of medicine, lives a legend. He's known as Emeritus Professor Idris Mohammed. He's an esteemed specialist in internal medicine, infectious diseases to be precise, and immunology. It was from him, about him, I first heard what an immunologist is. He is no ordinary academic. He was born in Gombe, northern Nigeria, some 80-something years ago. MashaAllah. And his journey through the medical realm is nothing short of a magical adventure. I'll tell you a little bit about it. When he was chief medical director of the University of Maiduguri years ago, and at the time, I met him the first time when he had just started the kidney center of University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, which he initiated. And guess what? It was my father that was the chairman of the board. That gave me an opportunity to have a close interaction with Professor Idris Mohammed. As a very young doctor, I didn't know what my journey was going to be. And I'm so pleased to know that that kidney center has endured. And with the very dynamic current chief medical director, the kidney center in the last 2 or 3 months was revamped with $1 billion worth of equipment and infrastructure. And it remains the best and the largest in Nigeria. Professor Idris Mohammed embodies humility. He embodies patience and a sense of presence. I'll tell you another story. Many years ago, when flights used to be delayed, he probably doesn't remember that. It has etched in my memory. We went to the airport waiting for a flight. I was coming from Kaduna. I wanted to go for an outreach in Maiduguri, and he was going back to his place of work. So we were camping outside because the building of the airport was not yet well done. And we waited for 3 hours, 4 hours. By 6 p.m., they canceled the flights. And I was like, but I have patients waiting for me. So I started ranting and wrecking. And Prof came and he asked, and they said flight has been canceled. And he just took his ticket, put it in his pocket, turned around and walked away. And I was like, Prof is doing this, why am I ranting? And so that was a lesson for me, because no matter how much I ranted, it's not going to change that the flight will come. And Prof knew that. So he didn't want to raise anything. He just put his ticket in his pocket and walked back and said, I'll check again tomorrow. That was a lesson for me. Thank you very much, Prof. And since then, anything canceled, I just walk, I turn around and walk away. As chief consultant, physician at the Federal Teaching Hospital in Gombe, after he left Maiduguri, he has danced between the worlds of academia and bureaucracy throughout his life with finesse. From battling bureaucratic dragons as permanent secretary in Bauchi State Ministry of Health, to wielding his professorial powers at Ahmadu Bello University and subsequently University of Maiduguri. This medical wizard has seen it all. But it was his epic quest against the evil meningitis that truly set him apart. He led a band of brave researchers. He orchestrated the largest mass vaccination program that we have ever seen, protecting millions of souls from the dreaded epidemics of meningococcal meningitis. This vaccine is what vanquished the menacing disease and earned him the admiration of the World Health Organization and fellow of healers across the globe. That is really remarkable. So even outside the research and the ivory tower, he has been a noble leader. He has presided over the National Program on Immunization like a true leader, lending his wisdom to the councils of great institutions. His list of accolades are many. I'm not going to go scroll through, but he has titles such as Officer of the Order of the Niger, Fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine, Fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Science, and even in his community, he's the Dang Isang Gombe. So in this enchanted world of academia, I present to you this morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Emeritus Professor Idris Mohammed, a beacon of knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fatima. I was afraid that you were going to make me tremble, and you nearly did. I had to tell myself that this august body will not tolerate me trembling because of a citation. I hope you can hear me. Very good. Thank you very much. Fatima, it's nice to see how you have progressed, and I would have liked to return the compliment, but this is no time for it, and there is no time for it either. But I need to say that I'm impressed by the way you have progressed. From the time we traveled to see the kidney center at King Fahad Hospital, 1990, to this time, when you are now Registrar of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, and also a foundation fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine. You must be the youngest foundation fellow of the Academy. So congratulations, Fatima. You have made us proud. We are very proud of you. There are very few of us from that part of Nigeria who are fellows of this august body. And you are a flagship representing us from the Northeast. Distinguished members of Board of Trustees and Council of the Academy, distinguished fellows, it's a pleasure for me to deliver this lecture on this topic. So I would like to first of all thank the local organizing committee and the council for finding me worthy to be this year's lecturer at the annual general meeting and induction ceremony. When I was asked to select a topic for this lecture, I suggested that I would speak on epidemic meningococcal meningitis in West Africa with particular reference to Nigeria. But the local organizing committee thought that it would be more appropriate to expand the topic so that I will speak on vaccine preventable diseases in Nigeria, the quest for self-sufficiency, which I accepted. However, I was not terribly happy because I thought an august academy like this one should give the lecturer an opportunity to showcase research that they have undertaken, which has had an impact nationally and internationally. But that's by the way. And of course, I consider it the suggestion of the local organizing committee entirely appropriate, because in the process of preparing this lecture, I discovered I had to go back to school. And I am so much the better for it. So thank you, local organizing committee, for overruling me. You have made me a better physician, particularly in the area of disease control and prevention. Now, this subject, vaccine preventable diseases in Nigeria, is, for me, entirely appropriate for quite a number of reasons. It's appropriate for me because I spent most of my life working on and researching infectious diseases in general, and in particular, vaccine preventable diseases. Because as we all know, not all the vaccine preventable diseases, not all the infectious diseases are preventable by vaccination. However, the large majority of them are. And vaccination or immunization, the two of them being interchangeable, has played a critical role in disease control and prevention throughout the world. And it is of particular relevance in the resource-poor developing countries of sub-Saharan Africa, of which Nigeria is one. So it is a subject of tremendous importance that needs to engage the minds of all medical personnel serving in sub-Saharan Africa. Because as we know, infectious diseases constitute the major part of the disease burden, and they cause morbidity and mortality in the largest number of people in this part of the world. So how to prevent infections by vaccination is of tremendous importance. We are challenged in this part of the world by quite a number of things. The vaccines available for prevention of these infections have been developed largely in the Western part. And much that they are most relevant in this part of the world, they are least available because we can neither fund their procurement, nor can we effectively distribute and administer them, except with the help of our richer nations who donate the vaccines and in many cases also support the infrastructure for their delivery and their administration to those who need them. It can be argued that although the vaccines are generally available throughout the world, they are less so in the developing countries of sub-Saharan Africa. So with these brief introductions, let me go to the subject matter of vaccine preventable diseases. And in this respect, I will talk mostly about immunization, which is synonymous with vaccination. Nigeria has, over time, procured vaccines for use in the country from 1960s onwards. And the conduct of immunization has had a checkered funded program of immunization. It was introduced by the World Health Organization to the time when new diseases emerged, and Nigeria was able to vaccinate people against those new infections. The burden of disease has decreased, while the economic burden for procurement of vaccines has also increased. That necessitated the country having to plead for help from the developing countries. Please go back to the first slide. All right. Let me begin by introducing a few elementary things. And you will excuse me if I take 2 minutes in doing that, because I need to lay a foundation as the basis of what I'm going to say subsequently. This quotation is by Ivan Reut, a leading teacher and immunologist in Middlesex. And he says, we live in a potentially hostile world filled with a bewildering array of infectious agents. Hence the need to develop defense mechanisms of immunity against infections. And the best mechanism is vaccination. Next one, please. This is just to show you the primary and secondary responses to vaccination, which is bad. Next one, please. Next one. The WHO has a definition for immunization, or vaccination, which is the art of administering vaccines to prevent infectious disease. Next one. The WHO definition is more or less confirmation of the previous one. Next one. These are the keywords in immunization: memory, specificity, and recognition. These are very important because it explains why there was some controversy as to control of certain diseases that I will discuss later on. Next one. Basic mechanisms of immunization. Vaccines administered must satisfy these conditions: immunogenicity, efficacy, safety, availability, affordability, and logistics of distribution, storage, and equity, and so on. Next one. Now, these are a few basic words in vaccine immunology. Vaccine-mediated antibody protection is a complex issue. A vaccine's early protective efficacy is based on generation of protective antigen-specific antibodies. There is more to antibody-mediated protection than the level of antibody titers resulting from vaccination. The quality of antibodies produced is very important and is defined by their avidity, specificity, and neutralizing abilities. Long-term protection requires persistence of antibodies above protective thresholds, and so on, and so on memory cells as well. Thus, both B and T cells are important in protection by vaccination. Next one, please. There are correlates of vaccine-associated parameters which are important. Specific molecular signature of vaccine immunogenicity reveal new correlates of protective immunity. Responses to vaccination are complex and heterogeneous in nature. Vaccines have to be tailored to the needs of different populations, the young, the elderly, and the immunocompromised. Vaccine development has raised new issues that go beyond specific antigen protection. Such issues such as allergy, autoimmunity, or even death. Such off-target effects of vaccines call for further studies as they are generating controversy in an area that needs none. Next one. Now, vaccine preventable diseases in Nigeria. You need to consider the following: infectious disease burden, relevance of immunization to disease control and prevention, policy issues with respect to vaccination, who is responsible for vaccination in Nigeria, issues relating to trust, understanding, and acceptance of immunization, and the role of conspiracy theories. Next one. I will address those issues in due course. Now, this is a list of currently available vaccines, and they include the 6 original expanded program of immunization diseases, the 6 of them: DPT, tuberculosis, measles, and poliomyelitis. Next one. This is continuation of the currently available vaccines. Next one. Available vaccines in Nigeria. The National Primary Healthcare Development Agency lists some 17, well, they say there are 17 vaccines available in Nigeria, which is corroborated by the NCDC. However, neither agency could tell us which of the vaccines are free and what the success rate has been in their administration over time. Next one. These are the available vaccines in Nigeria. They list 12 of them and say others. Next one. Next one. No, go back, please, a little. Pipeline vaccines. The WHO lists these vaccines as being in the pipeline. And all I need to say is that among them, there are some of great interest to us. Malaria vaccines, new tuberculosis vaccines to address issues that have arisen since HIV emerged. And I believe HIV vaccine is among the next one. HIV-1. So the three of them, malaria, HIV, and tuberculosis, constitute the greatest burden of disease in developing countries. They cause death, morbidity, and mortality the largest morbidity and mortality among infectious diseases in Africa, but so particularly so in countries with large populations like Nigeria. Next one, please. And you will remember that the three of them led to the formation of the Global Fund to address the disease burden caused by them. Tuberculosis, malaria, and HIV. Next one. Now, talking about immunization in Nigeria, some basic issues. Vaccination started probably the concept in the 10th or 11th century, when small amounts of smallpox viruses were repeatedly administered. And then in the 18th century, Edward Jenner conducted his vaccination using cowpox as antigen. The success of his experiments led to the development of smallpox vaccine that was used to eradicate the disease in the 1970s, 1980s, 1972, 1976, 1978. By 1978, we were sure that eradication of smallpox had completely happened. And since that time, we have seen no confirmed cases of smallpox anywhere in the world. So that success, I will say later, is responsible for the new drive to see whether similar success can be achieved by vaccines, particularly in this part of the world. And they addressed diseases such as measles and poliomyelitis. And I will say a bit about poliomyelitis in a little time. Just to confirm that after the experiments of Jenner, Louis Pasteur produced rabies vaccine in 1885, and vaccines for BCG, tuberculosis were introduced by 1927. And in the 1927, in the 1990s, vaccines against diphtheria, tetanus, and I think that was 1960s, not 1990s. Poliovirus and measles vaccines became available in 1955 and 1960, respectively. Next one. Now, immunization in Nigeria started in 1960s, but we went into the field with greatest force in the 1970s when the WHO introduced the expanded program on immunization against those 6 diseases listed there. As new vaccines were developed, others were added, such as yellow fever, maternal tetanus, and bivalent A and C vaccines, Haemophilus influenza type B and hepatitis B vaccine. The new EPI was launched in Nigeria in 1974, 1976, 1978. But it followed a meeting in Kumasi, Ghana in 1974, to which Nigeria sent a delegation. And that meeting produced the guidelines for launching the EPI. which was adopted by Nigeria in introducing the scheme. First of all, there was a pilot project in one LGA to test acceptability, efficiency, and cost effectiveness of the scheme. Then all states were mobilized to take off for takeoff of the new scheme between 1979 and 1982. In 1983, there was near collapse of the scheme due to shortage of vaccines. Vaccine coverage remained low at 20% by 1984, and national immunization days were introduced in 1988. Next one. Now, this is supposed to show the rate of vaccination between 1979 and 1987. It's not shown clearly. Go back, please. What's happened to the picture? Anyway, it is supposed to show, first of all, after the introduction of the EPI, it went well until about 1983, when it dropped to nearly 20% due to some factors that were not always clearly stated. However, the scheme was relaunched in 1984, by which time the coverage began to rise and rose to about 50% by 1987. Next one. Now, it's important to highlight what Professor Olikoye Ransome-Kuti achieved in his time as Minister of Health of Nigeria between 1986 and 1972, when he left the Federal Minister of Health as minister. He designed and enhanced aggressive routine immunization campaign. He pushed immunization tirelessly, personally traveling to all states of the country, including many local governments and even districts, to ensure that immunization was being carried out properly. It's important to appreciate the role of this remarkable Minister of Health. He drove immunization from that low of 40 to 50% to 80% and above by 1992. That's a period of less than 10 years. And I think that nobody has achieved that since he left the Federal Ministry of Health as minister. We were hoping that the momentum he created would be maintained. Unfortunately, since nobody appeared to have appreciated the need for the kind of action he took, immunization went down, as I will try and show shortly. Next one. So I think that it's very important to appreciate what he did, because if it had been replicated, we would probably not be talking about failure of immunization in this country. Because up to today, the level of coverage of 80% has never been achieved, even nearly. We will see what the level is at the moment, even though the data are not comprehensive enough. Now, the problem with immunization started, I think, about 1997, when immunization was centralized in the capital, Abuja, taking away the functions of the state ministries and the local governments. We know that health is supposed to be a concurrent item in the Constitution. However, by military decree in 1977, the National Program of Immunization was established, which effectively centralized immunization, taking away the state and local government functions and funding, as well as funding. Now, whether this centralization is effective or not, I leave you to decide. However, my personal view has always been that taking away and centralizing immunization has taken away ownership of this most important means of disease control and prevention away from states and local government, who are supposed to be the direct beneficiaries of immunization. And unless an effective mechanism was established at the center to ensure conduct of immunization throughout the country down to the 6th district level, there is no way we can hope to achieve complete success in this area. I say this because I had Fatima saying I was chairman of the National Program of Immunization. I was. And you might ask what I did. And in fact, why did I accept it? Many people thought that the chairmanship was sought. But I'd like to state that I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about it. The first thing I knew about it was that I was trying to board a plane at Gatwick Airport in London when somebody ran from behind me saying, "Professor, Professor, Professor." And I said to myself, this must be a Nigerian. I'm not even going to stop or look back until he overtook me and stopped in front of me and said, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm sorry, I'm your in-law. I'm married to Hamza Zayat's daughter." And I said, "Oh, it's not Fatima. You are Farida's husband." He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Oh, I wanted to congratulate you that you are being appointed chairman of the NPI." I was dumbfounded. And he realized I was upset because I was truly upset, but this is no place for me to say why I was upset. I was upset first because I didn't expect it. Secondly, because I didn't want this appointment to be misinterpreted in any way. And there was a substitute chairman of the agency at that time, who was my teacher, my mentor. And the thought of somebody, anyone thinking that I sought for this job to replace him was absolutely abhorrent. So I was shocked. Anyway, all this is by the way. There was no way I could refuse the appointment, but this is no place for me to say why I didn't. It will probably appear by the time I finish. Next one. The NPI was directed. By that time, the new government has come, 1999, and coverage was 40%. The NPI was directed to move immunization back towards 80%. And it was made clear to government that this was going to be impossible without adequate funding and total political support at the highest level. And we were assured at the highest level that both will be provided. And they were provided indeed, provided beyond my understanding, beyond my expectation. Anyway, what has happened is that, first of all, having been directed to do that, we undertook a rapid nationwide survey to determine our baseline. And the results, after that massive funding and political support, the president went with us to certain states in order to launch National Immunization Days. I have never seen that before, and I haven't seen it since then. Next slide, please. There's a slide before this. Well, my important slides have decided not to show today. Anyway, what the slide shows is that from that 80% in 1999, immunization, when we carried when we did the national coverage in 1983-84, immunization had dropped from the 40% to 12.7%, with me as chairman of the National Program on Immunization, and with the federal government, with direct orders from the president, supplying NPI with all the funds we needed. We were budgeting something like 5.6 billion. And by the end of the budget cycle, we would have been given something like 6 billion and above. In addition to which, NPI was receiving foreign funds direct from abroad, amounting to several millions of dollars. Despite that, and despite the high political support, immunization dropped from 40% to 12.7%. I don't like discussing the topic because I might break down. Yeah. The figure shows the high, that figure showed the high is 80%, not 92%, please. The 92 refers to 1992. It was 80%. And the progressive decline to 40 degrees, the modest rise to 45, and then the disastrous fall to 12.7 in 2003. Next one. Oh dear. I don't know what's happening to my slides. The slide simply showed how we progressed from 40%. Well, first of all, from the progress from 80% to 40%. And then from 40%, they dropped to 12.7. Next one. Maybe I can find my slides here. I hope you will excuse me. I can speak to my slides, although you may not see them. I need to be told how much time I have left, please, so I can tailor my speech to within the time frame. All right, I have the coverage during the routine coverage in 2003, which showed the highest coverage was in Northeast, North Central state, and the lowest in the Northeast, my very own state, region. Now, the slide that didn't show, or have you sorted it out, showed the high 80% in 1992, dropping to 40% in 1999. And by 2000, it are reading a little to 45%. And from there, it dropped down gradually to 12.7 by 2003. Next one. Sorry. Thank you very much. I'm told that I have 15 minutes. I gratefully acknowledge that, and I will try to keep to the time. Now, what are the factors responsible for the decline in immunization in those years? Next slide should show it. Next slide. There was shortage or lack of political will and commitment by leaders in the health sector between 1993 and 1999, when the new government took over. And then centralization of immunization in the federal government, despite health being on a concurrent list, discouraged the states and local governments from paying attention to immunization because they said the responsibility is now with the federal government. and federal government did not have the wherewithal to supervise and conduct immunization in the states, particularly in the local governments and districts. Then there was conspiracy theories. Now, I'm told that my booklet has been published and it will be presented, but please don't follow it because I'm not following what is written in that textbook strictly. You can read it at home or in your leisure time, which means I can skip some of the things that I'm going to say because you will find them there. I will only say things that you may not find. There was lack of ownership. There are conspiracy theories. During 2001, 2002, 2003, there was some vicious rumor that particularly polio vaccines contained HIV, as well as hormones for family planning. And we all know that the highly religious zealots in parts of northern Nigeria will never accept anything that will cause family planning, particularly when there are infectious agents such as HIV. So immunization was rejected, totally rejected in some 2 or 3 states in the Northwest. But that had the effect of discouraging immunization almost throughout the country. So that played a very important role in the decline of immunization. And that decline was also propagated by the high emphasis on polio immunization. The Polio Eradication Initiative, which is shown next in this slide, is essentially a WHO, UNICEF, and Rotary International plan, which is supported strongly by the Gates Foundation. The drive by most actors suggested they were acting on behalf of rich Western powers. And some of these powers define one case of poliomyelitis as an epidemic. And this was stated to me by the former minister of the late Oliko Ransom Kuti. As an example of the failure of the program in Nigeria, of 68 cases of new polio cases in the world in 2002, 64 were traced to Nigeria and only 2 in Niger and 2 in Zambia. So Nigeria was the focal point of failure of polio immunization in the country. The PEI is strongly funded by foreign exchange. Next slide, and is delivered house to house, preceded by massive media publicity, which did not advertise routine immunization in parallel. So everything was geared towards polio immunization only. And what is more, during the conduct of the polio immunization, no routine vaccines are administered in parallel. So routine vaccination was relegated to the background. And when you talked about immunization in those years, people automatically thought you were referring to polio immunization. So that played an important role. Now, important responses to the failure of immunization. I need to say this. The World Bank country director for Nigeria wrote to the 2 relevant ministries complaining about the failure to eradicate polio and also the severe drop in routine immunization figures in Nigeria. And he wrote as follows: conservative estimates show costs in 2005 at $56 per fully immunized child. This is more than double the norm for developing countries. And he observes subsequently, I am concerned that unless the problems facing the management of immunization services are addressed, it will be difficult for the bank to justify its continued support for immunization. And he can say this against the background that the World Bank provided over $80 million towards polio immunization alone. and yet the program was not making progress. Next one. Another document from the department, the defunct Department for International Development, addressed directly to the chairman of the NPI, stated as follows: it, in brackets, National Program of Immunization, has had a turbulent history. The chances of rehabilitating the routine immunization program in the short term are zero. The resurrection of a service is technically feasible, but requires systematic re-education, management training, and repair of the system in which immunization must function. This caused a lot of concern in the board of the NPI, and we pushed very hard to address these issues. What I need to say is that all our efforts were forlorn because the executive arm of the agency was in fact to effectively sabotage the actions of the Board of Management. The fate of immunization in the NPI. Along the way, the NPI was disbanded and merged with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, an action that I applauded. Even before we had problems with low coverage, I had personally written to the Minister of Health suggesting that the NPI as a standalone agency was never going to move immunization forward, and that it should be merged with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. And of course, members of my board said that I was crazy. When I suggested this to the late Professor Ransom Kuti, who was then chairman of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, he was surprised that the NPI was conducting routine immunization because he thought his agency was responsible for that. And I had to draw his attention that all the funds for immunization were sent to the NPI, 5.something billion every year. He was so surprised. And I gave him a letter of the copy of the letter I wrote, asking that the agency should be disbanded and merged with the NPHCL. Eventually, this happened several years before we left. So you can imagine that I was very delighted. The current situation is that the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency is conducting immunization better, and the success rates are better, as shown by the next slide. Next one. This is, next one. I hope it shows. Oh, it wouldn't show. All right, it shows the coverage. I conducted the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and they gave me a slide of measles coverage in 2023, which shows that some states had achieved 100% coverage, while the average for most states is 70 and above, which is a major, major improvement on what we had before. Next one, new vaccines were also introduced by the agency, as shown there, pentavalent DPT, hepatitis, and so on. Next one. Next one. There are vaccines offered for special immunization, which are not available for everybody. And most of them are usually paid for and administered in private hospitals and clinics. Next one. Now, I want to briefly address my main interest, epidemic meningococcal meningitis. Now, I know that I will not have time to discuss this issue because the local organizing committee had told me that it was not going to be appropriate. In any case, that if I'm going to do so, the entire lecture will take more than 1 hour. So you'll excuse me if I only briefly go through it. Next slide, please. Epidemics of meningococcal meningitis are a serious public health problem in sub-Saharan Africa. They upset the entire care effort. Most attention is diverted away from routine care towards their treatment and control. They are deadly, disruptive, and emotionally overwhelming. among the affected communities. Chemoprophylaxis with sulfur was tried initially, but because of the difficulties in administering them and also the resistance developed by the organism over time, they had to be abandoned. And so vaccination was then considered as the best alternative. The next one. The following. Next one. Vaccination became the obvious. Go on. Next one. Oh dear. These slides are not shown, but I hope it's printed in the booklet. All right, before then, I wanted to show the meningitis belt, in the African meningitis belt, as described by Lapisonnier in 1963. Is this showing? Fortunately not, but I hope it shows in the booklet. The main serogroups responsible for epidemics in Africa is serogroup A, as opposed to group B. Yeah, that's the African meningitis belt. It extends from Senegal in the west to Ethiopia in the east. And all those countries in, is that pink? Part orange are part of the meningitis belt. Affordable vaccines initially were group A and C vaccines, and several trials of these vaccines have been held in various parts of the world, but mostly in Africa, in Algeria, in the Cape Coast, and in Nigeria. It's a map. Next map shows the spread of epidemics in Africa. Next one, with dates. You will find it in your booklet. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Oh, there, it's not showing. All right. You will find the spread of meningitis in Africa in the booklet. Now, there was a question as to whether there should be control or eradication. Eradication would have been perfect, but it was realized that this is an impossible utopian objective, which could never be achieved. So attention was turned to control. Now, mass vaccination is the issue that generated a lot of debate in the early years between 1978 and the year 2000. Now, the first mass vaccination against this disease were carried out in Bauchi State in 1978, 79, and 1980, during which 2.5 million people aged 3 to 15 years were vaccinated. Vaccination on this scale had never been undertaken before. There is a description of the study population and the results of the exercise in Bauchi State. Essentially, next, keep going, please. You come across the results of the exercise. There's a table, go on after that. Go to the table. Yeah, this one. Please make a correction in your booklet. 1978, the number of persons vaccinated is 190,212, not 90,000. So please add one before the 90. The results of the exercise showed that we concluded, we are convinced that there are some promising indications that mass vaccination offers the best hope of containing epidemics of meningococcal disease. This was published in the Lancet in 1981. Now, it was believed after this publication that the WHO would now recommend mass vaccination for control of the disease. But they deposed as follows. Routine mass vaccination of young children is presently not recommended, even in areas at high risk of the epidemics, because one, the vaccines are not immunogenic enough, and two, the feasibility of such vaccination is questionable. Now, both vaccinations those points have been addressed and debunked in future studies. Because the continuation of the study shows that the study extended to all the Northeast states as well as Plateau State, during which 7.5 million people were vaccinated, showed that antibody levels actually persisted more than 4 years after the initial vaccination. Therefore, routine mass vaccination need not be carried out every year or every 2 years, but it needs to be carried out up to 6 years after vaccination. Now, all this pointed to the fact that mass vaccination was the best means of controlling the disease. In addition, there were works by other people from other countries, from Niger and from Cote d'Ivoire, as well as from Chad, which shows that mass vaccination with the polysaccharide vaccine was effective. And this led some workers in the US National Institute of Health to conclude, and I quote, "The time has come to recognize that WHO strategy as the only policy for meningitis in sub-Saharan Africa is too late, too little." Now, this was still not accepted. And then we had the disaster in 1996, when the largest epidemic of meningitis occurred in northern Nigeria, during which over 214,000 recorded cases were found in Kano, Katsina, and Sokoto states alone. And of these, 10% of them died. Now, WHO concluded after this exercise that epidemics of meningitis on this scale can no longer be ignored. And so there was then a search for a solution, and a group of researchers went to meet Mr. Bill Gates directly to seek assistance to develop the conjugate vaccine that the WHO was demanding before accepting mass vaccination. And he was instantly receptive, because he drew out his checkbook and wrote a check for $70 million after asking how much they needed, and they told him. And that led to the establishment of the meningitis vaccine project, which is a joint project of WHO and the PATH, Program for Appropriate Technology in Health, PATH. The WHO now has converted to the need for mass vaccination. So the meningitis vaccine project was formed, in which there was an African chairman, 2 Ghanaians, 2 Nigerians, who was the director. The technology for communication was acquired from Belgium and awarded to the Serum Institute of India, which successfully developed the vaccine, which is known as MenAfriVac, and it was introduced in Burkina Faso and Niger in 2010. And then between 2010 and 2015, the rollout had reached the east coast of Africa, during which 250 people were vaccinated without any serious recordable side effects. And that vaccine rollout saw to the end of cases of epidemic meningitis, which have not happened to date. A new development, however, offered. This is the last point I wish to make. The success of eradicating Group A meningitis in West Africa led to the development of replacement serogroups. Nature abhors vacuum. So in the essence of Group A, cases of Group C and W135 began to appear, and they were threatening to derail the success of meningitis control in Africa. Luckily for us, somebody had thought ahead of time, and a new vaccine, pentavalent vaccine against A, C, W135, X, and Y had been developed. And it was rolled out this year in April. Nigeria being the first country to roll it out. And since that rollout have disappeared, our hope is that this will spell the end of epidemics of meningitis in Africa. Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity given to me. I wish we could have discussed this topic further, but I believe you will find perspectives on this later. I had addressed the issue of the quest for self-sufficiency. If you will allow me, I will just mention one or two things. You know that there was a vaccine production laboratory in Yaba that was producing yellow fever vaccines for West Africa. Unfortunately, that laboratory was run down by neglect, lack of funding, lack of infrastructure by way of equipment and buildings and so on and staff, to the point where they stopped producing anything by 1992-93. Despite the fact that it had been decided by federal government to in fact turn it into an institute for vaccines and biologicals that will produce vaccines, not just yellow fever, but other antigens such as DPT, BCG, measles, and so on. Unfortunately, this was never to be, and that's how we landed in 1999 with the situation that I have described earlier. So, but anyway, there are hopes. There is now a BioVaccines Nigeria Limited, a joint venture between Nigeria and Baker that is geared towards production of vaccines, local production of vaccines, and to strengthen vaccine production capabilities. Nigeria is one of 6 African countries earmarked to receive messenger RNA technology transfer for COVID-19 vaccines. Nigeria is in talks with global vaccine manufacturers for technology transfer and opportunities for local vaccine production. The necessary framework, regulatory framework, is being strengthened in order to comply with international vaccine requirements. Critical issues of funding and investment are also being addressed, but consistent long-term funding is a challenge. There is need to develop skilled workforce in biotechnology, pharmacology, and related fields to support vaccine manufacture. Supply chain and distribution mechanism must be assured to enable that vaccines reach everywhere in the country. And it is hoped, finally, that the presidential initiative for unlocking the healthcare value chain will help address some of these challenges. Thank you very much. I stop here. God bless you.
Keep clapping. Keep clapping. Please keep clapping for our guest lecturer, Emeritus Professor Idris Mohammed. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Please, you may be seated. That was a standing ovation for you there, sir, for giving us not just knowledge, but pouring out your heart and sharing your experience in managing vaccinations or vaccines in Nigeria. What a beautiful story indeed. Please give him another round of applause. Thank you so much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, This was such a beautiful time for me because in this hall, I have the infectious disease specialist who taught me about meningitis when I was in school. And so seeing Prof talk about the meningitis belt made me remember Professor John Idoko. And it's just a coming together of all of these things in the hall this afternoon. Please, a round of applause for Professor Idris, Emeritus Professor Idris Mohammed. Thank you. Thank you. I know that Professor Idoko would recall he's known for talking about the meningitis belt. He told me that the last time we met. Thank you so much. What a beautiful time indeed. I hope that the lecture today has inspired us to think, has inspired us to go find ways that we can develop vaccines for ourselves and our people in Nigeria. I started this event by sharing the story of the Wright brothers and how from their bicycle repair shop, they were able to develop the aeroplane that we know today. I want to encourage all of us as we go back to our various institutions and places where we function to take the information we have gathered here and stimulate our minds and our thinking to see how we can continue to better ourselves in Nigeria. These conversations remind me ever so much about the Nigerian saying, "Na from conversations like this that we will be inspired to find a vaccine for malaria, which is still killing millions of people, a vaccine for HIV, and all those other diseases, as we have heard today." I am excited, as you can see, because it has been a rewarding time being here at the 2024 annual lecture and induction ceremony. Please, I will request one more round of applause for our guest lecturer. Thank you. All right. As we coast to the end of this event, I would like to just lay down a few announcements before we will receive the vote of thanks from the chairman of the organizing committee. Please be informed that lunch will be served after this. Tickets will be received where? Ticket which would qualify you to receive lunch. There would also be a photo session and a press conference right in this hall after the academic recession. These tables will be cleared off and we'll come back in this hall for the photo session and the press conference. So newly inducted fellows, you're going to have a chance to take beautiful pictures and to mark today. All right. I think I would like to invite to deliver the vote of thanks the chairman of the organizing committee, but I'm informed he's unfortunately not here. I'd like to welcome the secretary of the NAMED Council to do this. Please let's welcome Professor Oluwole Atoyebi up to the microphone. Please encourage him, please.
Thank you. The Chairman, Board of Trustees of NAMED, President of NAMED, Professor Samuel Oegbulam, NNOM, FNAMED. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to come and cast my own vote of thanks. But if you look at the agenda, the program in your hands, if you see that it's chairman of the organizing committee, Professor Isaac Olorunso Adewole Ifa himself, that was supposed to deliver it, because the chairman of the organizing committee. But he was rushing to come here. As he alighted from plane, it was coming from Ghana, he sprained his knee. But yesterday morning, he sent a message that he wouldn't be able to come. So, interestingly, this thing has come back to me. When Dr. Fatima Kyari drew up the program, he put my name there as vote of thanks at the organizing committee level. I said, why me? I would have been standing calling the names of 20 fellows. Let the chairman, who has been behind the scene doing everything, let him come and do the vote. So we changed it and put his name. But come and see, I've come to do the thing again. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by thanking Almighty God for making it possible for us to be here, because we fixed the date and we fixed it in January. At first, we wanted August, and we changed it to the first week of September, working between exam periods for the various colleges. That is why it's first week of September. And as God will have it, we are here, alive and well to come and do it. Let's give an applause to Almighty God. So we thank God for making it possible that we are here to do this. And next is to thank the 2024 annual lecturer, Professor Idris Mohammed, NNOM FAS, FNAMED, not forgetting OON. It's interesting that Professor Idris has come to give the lecture this year, because I must tell the story. That's why we must thank him. We wanted him to come and give the lecture last year. Certain circumstances prevented the movement around that period, so he could not make it. So he was selected. So the chairman of the organizing committee, we couldn't get him. That was Professor Adewale. That's why we forced it on him. So this year now, we contacted him that you were to give a lecture last year. Certain circumstances did not allow you. So you are our first choice for this year. And he said, why not? I'm ready. And we were so elated when he agreed. Now we ask him to choose the topic. We know that his baby is meningococcal meningitis. And that's what they wanted to talk about. But we knew he would say it, and he has said it. He has told you all that we are the one who forced the topic on him. But a great man like him, he accepted our suggestion. Please, let's give him a round of applause, because we said he was the chairman of our first webinar. Our first ever webinar was on local production of vaccines by Professor Richard Adegbola. And he was the moderator. So that this one that they want to give a lecture, we must include production of vaccine. Not only but he has to talk about where he has. Yes, we talk about it, but let's talk about vaccine production. And that's why, and we know he must talk about meningococcal meningitis, because he has done a world acclaimed leader in infectious diseases. So Professor Idris Mohammed, on behalf of all of us, we say thank you. Thank you very much for the erudition you have displayed and for finding the time as a good fellow of NAMED to come and give this lecture. Thank you very much. Now, thank the new fellows. So nobody take place. Condition that the fellow must. The owners of the academy, the board of trustees, for making it. We thank them from the birth of the academy, from the board of trustees, and the council headed by the president for making sure the academy has come to work stronger and stronger. So, as we thank the chairman of BOT, Professor Tolu Odugbemi, and his other members, we also thank Professor Samuel Ohegulam, President, and all members of his council for making sure the academy is working strong. Next is the members of the organizing committee, headed by Professor Isaac Adewale. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here after he has prepared the meal, having series of meetings. A successful meeting. So, members of the organizing committee, Professor Isaac Adewale, chairman, and the organizing secretary, Professor Fatima Kiari, the executive secretary of Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, the secretary, I think we are going to make a permanent secretary of the organizing committee because she has been doing it for the last 3 years. Yes. Professor Idoko, a member of Board of Trustees, was a strong member of the organizing committee, who has made it possible that Ritz Hotel give us some discounts. Even when we want to fail, we didn't pay in time and so on. He was always coming down, despite the fact that it's not 100% in Abuja. It's between his farm and Abuja. So please let's thank Doko and King David Tena Yahweh. Another member of the organization who was always present at all the meetings, irrespective of the timing, even if it's something. So King David, past president, West African College of Surgeons, you are done very well, and we are grateful. Other members include Professor Dili Dogo, the treasurer, is not around. My humble self as their supporter. So I won't thank myself, but I know I've contributed. We must thank the police band. They have always been with us. I think they have been with us since the beginning, isn't it? Since the beginning, we have been having it physically. So, police band, thank you for supporting us and coming around and making sure that we are not charging us too much. When you ask for discounts, you give us discounts. So, we are grateful. Our important guests, we must thank you because our fellows, our new fellows came there. Some members of their family, some with their wives, That does not include the camps because both of them are new fellows. Or the Oladokuns, both of them are new fellows. So, but we thank everybody who has made this, everybody who has made this occasion successful. And the IT crew, this is online as we are, both by Zoom and it's on the YouTube channel of Nigerian Academy of Medicine. So even after this event, you can watch it. We don't delete it. Once it's on YouTube, just search for NAMED. If it's not giving you, because sometimes instead of NAMED, it looks like named. But when you put NAMED 6845, yes, it will show you and bring out the logo. Everybody who is here, everybody has done well, including the MC, who has agreed that next time we call him, because he reduced the fee for this time, he agreed. We reduced it by 1/4. That next year it will be free, we should pay him out of. Those who are serving us the meals here. Riz Hotel, God bless you all. Thank you. Okay, when I say everybody, the MC has reminded me we should not just say everybody, because we have ushers who have been trying to make sure things are going on very well. And these ushers are some beautiful young ladies and handsome men. These are medical students, really. They are doctors of tomorrow. Clap, let's clap. Please, wave your hands. Our ushers, our medical students, both male and female, wave your hands. You have done beautifully well. Thank you very much. In the list, you will see that we lost some of our fellows, some of the foundation fellows. If you look at the list of fellows, you will see deceased fellows. And I think at every of our occasion like this, we should just observe a moment of silence, just in honor of this deceased one, especially one that we lost after the last ceremony, as listed there. A moment of silence by the at the pleasure of the president. So let's stand up for a moment of silence. May the soul of our departed fellows rest in perfect peace. Thank you. I hope nobody was timing me. I didn't say a minute, I say a moment. I was telling you the other time that I'm getting old. So one of these new fellows must come and take over for me. I'm sure you know I've retired. That means I'm over 70, isn't it? So, so I forget something. The president has come, but the president is 80 something. He has come to remind me. I forgot to announce that there will be a recession. We had a procession, so we have to have a recession, which we go out in the reverse order. So maybe the MC should announce that so I can take my seat for 1 minute before we go.
Please, let's appreciate Professor Atohevi. Yes, sir, you can take your seat for 1 minute, catch your breath. We understand full well septuagenarian and your likes were here. See, let me tell maybe the medical students and everyone who is younger than them. When I came to us, ages, everybody's, yeah. It comes to Sir Isaac Adole, who's in people with favor, and just give them a round of applause, encourage them. Our president. Sambo, Africa's finest MC and events for trust. So you could find me on Instagram at HRH Sambo, on HRH Sambo, RH Compare. You know, the secretary, when he was given his vote of thanks, said, I will do this for free. For free, if everybody in this hall agrees to engage me for their very next event, I promise I'll do it for free. All the fellows, I'll do it for free. If all the fellows in a worthwhile time that was spent together, would like to ask Lisa to give us music as we witness the academic race order. Please shall we rise for this?
We stand as a people with one song, with one voice. We're a nation undivided and voice. We will take us down and build our land in faith to defend what is ours. Here we are as a people with one heart for one cause. We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom rise and truth prevails, our land where there's hope.
Mama, mama, mama. Somi alate waye. Soma kuki konteri maye. Miye alate waye. Ara. I recognize your presence, able Dr. Fatima, Dr. Fatima, Kiari, all right. Able Dr. Yakubu, I recognize your presence. Able mother, Dr. Kiari, a woman of honor, a virtue woman, doctor. Yeah. Our able Dr. Yakubu. Yes. A competent Nigerian Yakubu. A reliable Nigerian Dr. Yakubu. Mama, mama. Mama, mama, mama. Somi alate waye. Soma kuki go teri maye. Miye alate waye. igoterima, igoterima. Alaworoma, igoterima, oh, so me alatewayo, Yes, I also recognize our able Dr. Sarah. Dr. Sarah, yes. Our able Dr. Sarah, you are also recognized. All right. Okudili, Okudili, Okudili onye kele mo chukwu na malungo konye neme. Okudili, Okudili, Okudili onye kele mo chukwu na malungo konye neme. Ogalanya cholu kobenye bili, glanya cholu kobenye lieli. Obenye chekubeze chukwu. Odele mama, odele bemo. Dili mwake mako dele mwanyima. Oba megbe belu go belu o. Uche chukwu bunu yegeme. Uche chukwu bunu yegeme nowa. Ifo soro nye ya segabazia. Ogalanya mwo obenye bewa. Obenye mwagranye mewinye soro ya mano garanya mwo. Obenye bidobi papa. Ondili mumma, ondili bemu. Dili mwoke makondili mwanyima. Mega mane munagi gaboyi. Yes, I recognize my able Supo Shege. Supo Shege, one of FCD band, the lead vocalist in all the whole band in Nigeria. Supo Shege, recognize your presence, Oko A. Odili mumma, kodili bemu. Odili wakema, kodili wanyima. Anoba mebe belu bemu. Uche chukwu bunu yegeme. Uche chukwu bunu yegeme nowa. Ifo soro nye yasegabazi ya. Yes, I recognize my able leader, Inspector Afa J. Oko Ash, Inspector Emosili, Osi Yanya, our able Inspector Bassi. Yes, you're highly cited. The only woman in our midst, woman leader, Auntie Jo, Auntie J, Sister Joke. I'm happy seeing you. I've once listened to your wonderful and golden voice again, yes. Pastor Ogelebu, Amenya nanane, keyboardist, yes. Able guitarist Lamson. A wonderful trumpeters. Our able wonderful trumpeters, my wonderful brother Gambo. Yes, I join you, I feel you. And my able Emmanuel, I love your way. You're highly welcome, sir. Ije. So me alate wayo, so ma kuku iko teri maye. Me ye alate wayo. Ah, Ije. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, oh. Give us this day our daily bread, oh Lord. Our Father which art in them, thy kingdom come, that will be done on earth. Our able president. All right.